Advisory Committee. Today's date is November the 2nd, and it's at 4:11. So welcome, everyone. I'm Ruby Daniels again, and I'm a family child care provider and the current president of the Maryland State Family Child Care Association. I'll introduce my co-chair, and then we'll just go around the room and everyone in the committee can introduce themselves. Rania, Dr. Rania.
Greetings, everyone. Dr. Rania Miller, managing partner of the Consortium of Accomplished Educators here in St. Charles County.
Okay, shall we pass it on to Linda?
Sure. Linda Gronberg Quinn. I'm the Department Chair of Teacher Education at the Community College of Baltimore County.
Okay, Gina, you're next.
Hi, I'm Gina Hoover. I am the Early Learning Lead Teacher with Washington County Public Schools.
We're missing 2 of our committee members. Jacob is having internet issues, and Samia won't be able to join us today because of conflict in her schedule. So welcome, everybody. So let me try and look at the agenda. Okay, so just want everybody to, I guess, log into the shared Google Drive so we can look at it at the same time. And I can see everyone typed in their names in the attendance. What we can proceed to look at is give feedback to the AIB Blueprint Comprehensive Implementation Draft Plan that was drafted in October 26, 2022, look at the expected outcome and expected measures. And then we're going to take a deep dive on objective 1 and look at the task and the subtask and the implementation draft plan. So I guess the next step would be for me to go look at the shared Google Drive. Is there a way that we could do a shared screen, or this is better that we can look at it on our own? Ryan?
Yep, I can make you the co-host and then you'll have permission to share your screen. I'll make all of you guys the co-host right now.
Oh, wait. If I have to find it first. I have to open the okay. Do you have the link to the?
Would you like me to share my screen? I have it open.
Yeah, I think it's better.
Okay, hold on one second. I'll share it.
Okay. Thank you, technology. I mean, if I can find it, I can share it.
Did you want this one up or
no? I was
agenda?
I was looking at the implementation. If we can go to the task and maybe discuss as we go along, because I actually made a paper copy because that's how I do it. Things kind of old-fashioned that way, but not the agenda in itself. I would like to look at the task and then how it's going to be implemented, the recommended implementation.
Okay, give me 1 second to get that one up because I printed it. So give me 1 second to get the electronic copy up.
Okay. I could. Yeah, let me.
Okay. So that's where you wanted it.
If you keep scrolling
Yeah.
down through that chart there,
Uh,
you'll see
I-
another link, the extended pillar timeline.
yeah, I was thinking of the other link. Let me
Yes,
see.
that further
one?
expanded. Yep, that's the most recent one that was out there. I also dropped a link in the chat to the graphic directly that went along with the draft plan. So this is pretty close. The link in the chat might be the best one.
Okay. Let me go
Um,
back.
I was thinking of,
There we go.
We're giving your fingers a good workout right now, Gina.
It's fine. I just want to make sure I was showing you all the right thing. I didn't want to be on the wrong one. There you go.
oh, okay, perfect, perfect. That's what oh, okay, so I'm in the wrong. Perfect. So, is that the one? Let me just double check if I get the,
You just tell me when you want me to scroll or anything.
I somehow jumped into objective 2, which is pillar 1, objective 1. It said expand publicly, okay, high quality publicly funded. Yeah, that is actually. But I was more looking at the task. It looks like the requirement and guidance, where they actually, or with that, do they have that kind of the 1.1? I don't know. I might be looking at the wrong one. So
Are you looking in the actual draft plan?
yeah. So like 1.1, it has the requirements and the guidance for implementation. That's what I was looking at. So the 1.1, all 4-year-old, and then the requirement and guidance for the implementation.
Okay, I just opened that link. Hold on, I'll share my
Okay.
screen again. Thanks, Rachel, for putting the link in there. You found it faster than I did.
You're sure thing.
Yeah, that's the one.
This one? Okay.
You scroll down all the way. Yeah.
Keep going.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I go back. Is it?
Or you want right here?
It's page 13. I'm on page 13. Yeah, I think that's the one.
This
Page
is the one you want?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, so we're looking at the major subtask on this task 1, which is expanding access to free full day pre-K 3 and 4 from low income households. So right now, it's at 300% of the federal poverty level. So if we're looking at the requirements or the guidance for implementation, what does everybody think of how it's currently written? So right now, that's what it is, right? The state and local covers the full cost of the pre-K for families 3 and 4 with incomes up to 300 of the federal poverty level. And then next is priority for available spots shall be given to 3 and 4 from low income household with disabilities experiencing homelessness, and for children from homes with English is not the primary spoken language. I think anybody is, if we're looking at it, it looks like it's how it's currently implemented. So there's nothing that we can, no, it's good, right? Everybody in agreement? Okay. And then if we go down the list, LEA's partner with state county government, that's pretty good, right? And 1.1 is, this is how we were going to transition, right? 1.1C. that's how we're gonna transition from the pre-K, transitioning to the universal, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mhm.
So in the expansion of the fund from 20 to 25, beginning in 26, monies in the funds shall be used to support the full day pre-K funding formula specified. So MSDE will prioritize areas that have unmet need in the pre-K, including a plan for long-term and incorporate parental engagement and benefits for educational activities. And MSDE may establish additional requirement to meet the high quality standards and requirements identified in task 1.1.5 in order to receive the grant. What is the requirements in 1.1.5? I'm looking at that. Oh, it says the pre-K teacher shall hold state certification for teaching in early childhood or a bachelor's in any field while they are pursuing an alternative certification beginning in 25 and 26. So currently, what is the current requirement? The current requirement is to have a P3 certification, right? But I'm looking at here, task 1.1.5A, the pre-K teacher shall hold state certification in early childhood or a bachelor's in any field and pursuing an alternative certification. So in 2026, we're going to transition to this requirement that will give us plenty of time to prepare our workforce for the pre-K. What does the committee think? And I'm kind of having a hard time deciphering this.
Are you trying to decide whether it's enough time? Is that what you're wondering?
Is that enough? Is that enough time? 3 years? So MSDE shall develop and disseminate information about new certification requirement and alternative certification pathways for teacher.
I think I don't think it's necessarily the public schools that it might not be enough time. It might be more the
For the private provider.
private providers that it could be harder for private providers to find a certified teacher. Am I correct? Is that what
Yes.
you're thinking?
That's what I'm thinking because, for example, I'm a family childcare provider. I don't think we can afford to hire a teacher, a certified teacher, because that they make more than what we take home. So I think the only way that we can participate is if we are certified or going through certification. I think the best path for this, the best thing that we can do is to look and see how many of the providers actually have a bachelor's, right? Do we have data on that? Do we have data on how many providers or educators, family childcare educators and childcare center teachers have a bachelor's or would be interested in pursuing the teacher certification?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Mhm.
I hear you're talking about providers who are not in the public school system. My
Mhm.
question is, are we looking to have all providers become certified, or is it only the ones who will be providing pre-K services? So if you're just providing newborn to 4 or to 3,
Uh-huh.
then you don't have to worry about this part right here because this is for people who are providing pre-K. And I know all providers don't provide pre-K. So I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that I'm on the right track.
Yeah. Definitely on the right track. It's not for everybody, but if our goal is to have a true mixed delivery system
Right, and that 50-50 split, right?
and the 50-50 split, we have to kind of make sure that the childcare, the private providers are included in the blueprint, because right now, if we don't have enough private providers, I saw in one of the documents that the MSDE could give a waiver to the LEAs if they don't have enough private providers that can participate in the pre-K. I don't think that's right. I personally think that, if it has to be a true mixed delivery, we have to give the private providers be part of the blueprint or the pre-K expansion or the universal pre-K.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, I think what you just said, please correct me if I'm wrong, that there was wording about a waiver
Mhm.
if there were not enough of the private providers. And so you're suggesting there should not be a waiver. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, at least we have to aim to not have the waiver, because we want participation for the private providers, because the goal would be to get the private providers to participate as well, and just not because if we lose our 3 and 4-year-olds, I don't think we can survive. More and more childcare programs will close.
Right. And so my assumption would be, so maybe I'm Pollyanna with my rose-colored glasses or something, or looking at my prisms. But the LEAs would have to show that they made a good faith effort, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they can at least partner with the private providers, so that way we can get the workforce ready, and then at the same time get this implementation correct, So,
And it also sounded like when I was reading through it that I think you mentioned something about like no, you were talking about paying the people who would be teaching, because I was thinking about funding whether they're going for certification or for alt cert. But it looks like many of the folks we were talking about would be eligible for the CCC PDF.
yes, yeah, if they were going to pursue the alternative teaching certification, then the CCPDF would pay for their college or their certification. However, there's still a barrier for family childcare to get that teaching certification, because it requires a field experience or student teaching or internship in a P-3 setting, which is in the public school, for 5 months. As you know, we cannot close our programs and not have income for 5 months. It's going to be really hard. And I think it's impossible for us to accomplish that if we were to close for 5 months. So there has to be an alternative pathways in order for us to get the teaching certification.
So then for the purposes of what we're doing, can we, and maybe I'm looking to Rachel and Graham for this, is that something we can recommend? Or is that one of those things of like, this is what's out there, this is what we live with? I'm not really sure.
So things that are in the law they're out there, like you said. We really need to do everything that we can to implement these things. But what would be fabulous would be if your pillar group and each of the pillar groups could kind of create that recommendation that would alert us to the challenges. And if you have recommendations of things that should be considered or might be helpful or are needed, that would be great, just to provide that context to the AIB members and staff as we're updating this and finalizing it to get ready to say, here's the final plan. So and that's, I guess, a question for Ruby and Raina. What kind of form do you want to track these suggestions in? Like a Word doc is fine. There is no requirement for what this needs to look like. But I think, Ruby, you've identified some challenges or hurdles that should be raised. So just thinking about how to log those as you're going through each of the items. And some of them may not have any concerns. It's just for the ones that you do. We want to make sure we're capturing that and that your pillar has a way to send that back to the AIB.
Yeah, so definitely, do we have a note taker, or how will we go about doing this? If it's going to be in the Word document, or
I can kind of give you some tips on what the other pillars are doing. 2 of the pillars have had meetings recently. Some of them are keeping notes in their agenda, since everybody has access to it and different people can type in there. And then some of the teams, one team has a separate document that they've created in Word that they're all going in through and out of. And then when they come together, they talk through it. Another team used the implementation graphic and downloaded it, the one that we have available. Gina, you clicked on that one earlier than the Drive, the Excel document that you can actually type in. So if you wanted to add like a comment field there, or have one that we put in the Pillar Drive, I could do that now and drop one of these, into the Pillar Drive. And if you wanted to add a row for comments, you could do that. It's kind of up to you to decide which way you want to do it here in the live meeting, and if you would have people look at things that pertain to their purview or expertise, maybe in downtime in between the meetings.
well, what does the committee think?
I think just typing right on the agenda or is probably the easiest, or in a separate doc, but the agenda is already there. So why not just use it? And then, like Rachel said, if there's things that as we're working through it out of this meeting, then we can go back in and just add thoughts to where they are. I would be happy to type, but then you will see my typing, not this screen. So
So with that, I'll go to the agenda and I will type.
Okay. Perfect.
Give me a moment to pull it back up because it's lost in my many tabs.
yeah, you see mine. So Ruby, do you want me to go back up and kind of, now that we kind of know, like, the path that we want to kind of see if there's any recommendations that we want to make, do you want to go back up, or do you want to stay down here at 115?
What does everybody think?
Well, if I'm thinking go back up, because I think we said that, like, this part of it, we really didn't have any recommendations, right?
The access to the pre-K, I think, yeah, that actually looks good, unless if.
I think the only question that I kind of, maybe it's not necessarily a concern, it was just a question that kind of came up, is, from a public school system standpoint, if we're, giving priority slots to those 3 and 4-year-olds, plus the students with disabilities and EL and stuff like that, what happens when you run out of slots? Like, and that's just, what if you fill it with your low income, and then all of a sudden a child with an IEP moves in, or an EL student, and you've already filled your 20 spots. So that's just kind of a think about. I don't know that it's necessarily a concern. I mean, there's ways around it, but just something that I kind of thought of.
That's actually pretty good. Will they partner with private providers in the community? So that way we're giving equal access. I mean, if they run out of spots, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is too, like, we only have 3 private providers that are, within this capacity to offer the free pre-K. So then again, that's the same kind of problem that you run into, when they run out of spots, we're a little different here because we're, a little bigger and have more pre-Ks, so we can kind of look at other options. But I was just thinking for some places that may not have that option, it was just a curiosity.
I think that's going to be a problem for like high dense area, so because if there's more needs, will we be able to satisfy those needs? So we really have to get more people qualified, or try and get them qualified. Like another barrier for us to participate, especially family childcare programs, is the grant application itself is difficult to navigate. You need a grant writer in order to do it. And the grant application have questions that does not apply to our small group setting. It's mostly kind of created for public schools or centers or big organizations. So I think that's also something that maybe we could make a recommendation to make it easier for.
So which one of these does that fit under?
Well, the thing is, the priority slots, the one that was raised was what happens if we don't have enough.
Right.
So what you're saying, it doesn't fit in any of these three categories.
I didn't suggest that. I'm just questioning where is it going to fit? Because I think it's a great recommendation. Absolutely.
But we have to
But I
find-
just wondered where do we put that? Because it's a good recommendation. Where would we put it?
Yeah, you're right. Any thoughts? Shall we put that recommendation on?
Or is that a question we could ask in 111A, where it's saying priority, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end of that, do we, ask the question of what happens when all of those slots are gone? Although it sort of sounds like maybe what you were talking about is 111C,
Mhm.
where it's talking about the expansion grants. And so maybe in there is where we say something about, I don't know, do we ask the question of, is this, I don't know what the word I'm looking for.
How do we help more people become comfortable with
There you go.
getting the grants so that we can have more have providers for that 50-50 model that eventually will come up later? Is that what you were thinking, Linda?
That's what I'm thinking. Yes. Of just, pointing it out that there seems to be a barrier in place is the way Ruby had worded it, which is a good word to use.
Yeah.
And
So-
unintentional, I'm sure, unintentional.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you can't look at all the settings, but then, I mean, I think because if they're not aware of the different kinds of setting, and our setting is actually unique, so it's kind of hard to put that mold in different places. This, if they can have an easier pathways for the different settings.
So then you want me to keep scrolling down? Were we okay with 1.1.1D?
Yeah,
And then I think E is fine too. That's just saying that, MSD and the LEAs will pass out the information and let people know.
In terms of disseminating information on pre-K, what are the notification in local health and then social service department to identify families? Because this is disseminating information on prior to 26, right? In 2020.
And Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong. I take 1.1.1E to mean that is where we would tell, as a public school system, we would tell parents, okay, we have these available options in the public school system, plus we have these community providers that offer free public pre-K as well. Like we put them on the flyers that we have up here. So is that what you were asking her to be like, how would you go about doing that?
Mhm. So it's only gonna, is there more of a robust marketing or
Mhm.
information sharing with, can we use social media? Can we use other outlet? Can we use the TV? Can we use MTV?
I don't think that there's been a like set in stone way that they're telling us you have to do it. I just think that they want it to be that mixed delivery where we allow parents the option to say, okay, we have this private provider, we have this public pre-K, we have this other private provider. So, like we had a flyer and, with our pre-K, but then also our private providers. And if people call with a question and, they're looking for a 3-year-old program, we can tell them who, so I think I don't think that it's been said that it has to be done one way or the other.
Okay, so can we make a recommendation to have a robust information sharing with the public schools, with and use social media and use other outlets or TV or what?
That's what Rachel suggested in the chat, that could be a recommendation, that we ensure that MSDE and LEAs are using the social media and other avenues that parents use. That makes sense.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So shall we scroll down? Okay, are we in, oh, we're still in one. Shall provide.
Task 2, at least.
We're in task 2. Okay, we're moving.
So expanding access to full day pre-K for 4-year-old children between 300 and 600 of the federal poverty level on a sliding scale.
Okay.
I didn't have any notes.
I think, yeah, I think it kind of looks good. And then 600% shall pay the full cost of pre-K. Families shall pay the family share to the publicly funded pre-K provider. So great for incomes greater than 300%, but less than 600, beginning in July 1st, the fiscal year 2025. So is this going to be implemented the same way? So the families, it's a family choice, right? The family can choose to bring their child wherever if they qualify, if they have the 300 to 600%. Will this be set up just like the voucher system, like the childcare scholarship? Or how will this be implemented? That's my question.
I can probably only speak to that from my experience as a school principal, which was that parents could apply to any program, and then it became based on how many seats were open. So they could apply to the program in their district closest to their work if they wanted to, rather than closest to their home. But that could be a recommendation that the group suggests, that there just be more information about that process, or clarification so that parents know what options are available to them.
That sounds good. Can we have that recommendation?
And I think too, the other piece is that that's unique. That's different than what happens for kinder through 12th. You go to your zoned school, you go to your community school, and parents don't speak that language, right? I speak that language because I've been in schools for 2 decades, but that's a whole new concept for community, for parents, and for the public to understand that it is different for 3 and 4-year-olds, and maybe why.
And Raina, you're asking a really good question. How is the amount determined? Good question.
which amount? I didn't want to open the
Oh,
chat.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I didn't want to open the chat because you guys would see it.
Oh, sorry. No, so Rain, you said, how is the amount determined per LEA? And Rain, I don't want to speak for you. I'm sorry. I was just reading your comment.
I think because she's typing and
Oh,
she's the
yeah,
one
I'm
who's going
typing,
to
so that was
deliver
just
this.
easier.
And she's the one who's gonna bring it back, right, Rainia?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Bring it back as in the reporter?
You're gonna bring it back to the board, right?
Oh, yes, the reporter. Okay.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's very good recommendation. So yeah, because how I see things, you're right, it's totally different for the 3 and 4-year-olds. Maybe the family wants it closer to their work or whatnot. So yeah, definitely that's a good point. So are we in task 3? Are we good with task 2? So how are we, the question that I saw in the chat box when we had that big meeting is that people were asking, are we meeting the 30% of the pre-K slots in 23? And how are we working to meet that 30% in 2023? And then phase up to 50% in pre-K slots in 27.
And so this school year is fiscal year 23.
23.
And there is a waiver for any district if they are unable to get the 30%, which we recognize that there will be districts who are not able to meet the 30%. But I think that you ask a great question there, like what's the plan then? How do we support districts in being able to ramp up to get to that 50%? And I think up above, I'm pretty sure it was in an earlier place, like space is an issue. And so space was mentioned up in the top part there, that there's some opportunities for creativity. I think it says senior centers right there, senior care facilities and community centers. But maybe a recommendation is identifying some of the hurdles and helping people just collaboratively brainstorm. Like maybe Washington County has something that they could share with, Kent Island, Kent County, like it's just opening those conversations might help the brainstorming. And knowing what the hurdles are. Maybe it's not space in every issue. Maybe other counties have different issues.
So instead of making a recommendation, we can just ask that question. Is that what you're?
I can hear
What is
everything that you
fine?
said.
Mhm.
She just said, can we, instead of making it a recommendation, can we just ask that question? Because I do
Sure.
think you're right, Rich. I think everybody's across the state, everybody's kind of in different spots with where they are with implementing it. We are full day, but not every county is full day right now. So then that was a hurdle.
Right.
How do you take half day programs and turn them into full day programs? Where are we putting these? So there's just a lot of logistics. So I think the idea of maybe asking that question, and is there a way to brainstorm ideas that what's working here and what's working here and what's working with this private provider and what's working, just because you can't, we're working, I think you're better together in all of this. So I think, the more that we can hear from a lot of different stakeholders and a lot of different, because like you said, oh, Frederick County might have an idea that we didn't think of up here. And we're like, yeah, that's a great idea. Or we might have an idea to share. So, or Ruby might have a great idea that's working in her private daycare that somebody else was like, yeah, I didn't think of that. So I definitely think that's a great idea.
The neat thing about this committee is that each of you are in you have a different work perspective on this. Is there a recommendation from the committee about the best way to be able to facilitate that sharing of ideas, or to, between there has not been a history of a lot of communication between the private providers and the school system. So is there a recommendation for how could that happen to be able to share those ideas?
I think we have to initially make the partnership. We have to start the partnership between the private providers and the LEAs, and then at least have a conversation, just like you have recommendation is make just like a back to school night. If we can start with that, like a back to school night where the private providers will meet with teachers and, principals. So that way you get to know each other, and also give them the ability to visit programs.
I was just gonna say, we go and visit the private providers, myself and my early learning coordinator, we go and visit our private providers, and we've invited them to be able to come see the public pre-K, and, because there is sometimes some misconceptions on both ends. So it's nice to be able to, be able to go out and do that. And we've done different professional developments and book studies. So we are trying to kind of bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah, so definitely, have a reciprocal visit, and then definitely do a just like a back to school night, maybe phrase it to back to like a partnership community meeting, or something where LEAs and the private providers can visit each other. You can come and see our program and see how things are, how we do our pre-K, and at the same time we can also see how the pre-K is implemented in the public school. Now, the question also to ask is, do we have a data on how the program is working across the state? I mean, if it's working better in, for example, in Frederick, as opposed to Howard, as opposed to different Baltimore City, do we have data? Is there something that we can look at, or something that we can at least have successes or ideas on what's working in certain places and what's not?
I think it depends on what metrics you're looking for. Like the end goal is that the Maryland excels, that the pre-K programs have that as a data point, and that we, are growing on the evaluations there. But it might be that one data point is simply looking at that 30% to 50%. If we're at 0 growth, getting to 30, that would be one way to measure if it's working, if we're increasing seats and capacity and students that are being served. I was also going to suggest that one thing, you may not need to solve every question. You may suggest that MSDE and AIB explore ways to involve people, because there's a lot of other associations that are involved and that are interested in seeing this happen. And so maybe it's tapping into a group of people to kind of help us get the perspective from others.
That's such a good point. And we're all educators, right? We all want to solve it. We're going to solve the problem right now, but that's such a good point that we don't need to solve it.
I was thinking the same thing. Maybe we just make the recommendation that these are the thoughts that we're having, and see what AIB and MSD comes up with and what we can help with to then guide that.
Right.
The 1.1.3a, the waiver is a big concern for private providers, because if we could just keep having the waiver, it's just an easy way of not solving the problem, because that's an easier way out. So I think we have to just remove a lot of the barriers that's preventing the private providers from participating in the pre-K expansion.
So do we want to be that specific in the requirements and guidance for the 113A, where it's saying MSDE shall establish waiver application procedures? And do you want to go further and say something like, I don't know, to ensure that private providers are not, I don't know, unfairly treated or
Not like
allowed or something such as that.
has
Words are not coming to me right now.
How about like to ensure that private providers have the ability to be successful in the implementation, these are the recommendations that these are the barriers that we think that they might have, and then maybe just list the barriers, like, you know, the full-time teacher, how does that happen when you can't shut down your business for 5 months, things
Mhm.
like that. Is that what you were thinking, Linda? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take.
I
the
was,
word.
no, that's exactly it. You're using your words much better than I am right now.
And it hits the end of a long day too, so I'm surprised I can
It
still
is.
speak clearly.
So, yeah, I mean, like if we could, you know, if they don't have enough private providers that can qualify on their own, can they have partnership with the private providers?
There you go.
But then that would require some creativity, whether they could supply the certified teachers and oversee the program, or just like the infant toddler model, where you know where they have visitation in the private programs a couple of times a week, like sharing a teacher or something with the private providers and the public school. So that's a possible recommendation there.
And Ruby, you know what they say, time flies when you're having
know, I
fun.
know.
It
We're-
is, yep, we're running out of time. It's
running
about
out of time.
4:57.
5 minutes. Or is, oh.
I was just about to ask how far you wanted to get today.
So
Okay.
according to the agenda, we get up to task 4, which is the next one.
We're there.
So the MOUs, she'll enter a MOU with MSDE.
I didn't have any notes here.
Yeah, so I think this is more like a process of how to do the MOU.
And I
So,
think just making sure it has all the details that we would want in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
it has all the details of the MOU. Now, when we're doing the MOU with the LEAs, again, it's not the recommendation, it's a question. Will the LEAs be the ones who are applying for the private provider, and they are the private provider would be a sub-grantee? That would be easier for the private providers like family childcare programs, because again, one of the biggest challenge for us is the grant application. And I'm sure some of the large family homes and also some of the small centers will also have difficulty with grant applications. So recommendation, maybe when they do the MOU, it would be directly with the local schools. And so that way that will remove that grant application barrier. What does the committee think? Are we?
I would, obviously, we all feel that barriers should be lifted. Yes, I think that goes without saying. You're right. Is that what it says? Like in the green part at the top, the task, it sounds like it's including everyone in the process. Am I misreading that perhaps?
No, I was under the same impression that it was the LEA is entering into the MOU with MSD and any provider that's eligible. So that was my understanding of it too. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, so I think that's my understanding too. So
I think,
but it might be a question to ask as opposed to a recommendation.
so I guess my question is, we're supposed to have all of these looked at by next week, correct, Rachel?
Yeah, November 11th, right? So question to the committee. So Mia was telling me that Wednesday and Fridays is difficult for her, and she's only available after 6:30. So moving forward, if we were to schedule another meeting before the November 10th deadline, November 10th or 11th deadline, what is the availability? Shall I do a doodle poll again?
Well, Rachel, do we have to stick to the 2 weeks notice?
I'm able to squeeze one in next week because the draft plan got out. So we could do one next week if there's a day that would work for everybody before, just obviously not on the 10th. We'll be a little busy.
Right.
So,
Well, you said she can't do Wednesdays and Fridays?
so Mia can't
Okay.
do Wednesday and Friday. However, Jacob said Wednesday is the best for him. So I don't know. Shall we do
It's gonna be
it?
hard to get everybody, I'm sure.
Shall we, how does everybody think of, what about in terms of timing? Can we meet at around 5?
Mhm.
5 to 6?
Mhm.
We can.
Next Tuesday, I have Pillar 4 meeting at 4:30 until 6.
Okay.
What about
But-
Monday, the 7th at 5?
Give me 1 second here.
Monday, the
Oh,
7th is totally free for me. How odd is that?
Okay. Monday.
And
the
actually, I was
7th.
looking at the wrong calendar. Tuesday's election day, is that right?
Yes.
Oh
my
my
gosh,
gosh,
that's
right.
yeah.
That's right.
So
Okay.
we're busy
So-
on Tuesday.
Monday works, and then I think Tuesday might be a holiday, but if that's the day that works, I'll be there for you.
So is everybody in agreement Monday, the 7th at 5 o'clock till 6 o'clock? To go over the rest of them?
That works for me.
Yeah, works for me too. Okay, so next week, Monday at 5, we will go through 5 and 6 of objective 1, and then go through objective 2 and 3. I think 2 and 3 is the family support and stuff. So okay, so how are we doing, co-chair?
I think we are doing great. Pillar 1 has to be the best team. I think you guys, can you look at what I typed on the agenda? If it's highlighted in yellow, it was a recommendation, but I just kind of typed up all the important points. So if you think something should be a recommendation, just kind of highlight it or add to the notes. I was trying to listen and type. So I feel like we asked a lot of questions, not made a lot of recommendations. So I just was typing the important things that we talked about.
Okay,
Thanks
Yeah.
for typing.
Yes, thank you.
thanks for typing.
I know
So
that's hard to keep up with everything and
No.
It is. It
contribute
is.
and type.
All right, so I think it looks good. So we'll just meet again on Monday around 5. Okay,
And so are we using the same link or another one will be sent out to us?
I think
I
another
was
one will
starting
be
a-
sent out.
Yep, I was starting a calendar invite right now, so you can expect it in a couple of minutes. Graham will update it with the Zoom link and the stream link. The Zoom
Okay.
link is for committee members and the stream link is for the public to be able to watch. So we'll get that part up to you, probably not today, but maybe tomorrow.
Great. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thanks, Graham.
Thank you all so much.
For that wonderful committee, my co-chair and the rest of the committee, Linda, Ray,
Thank you.
Ina, and and everybody else, Rachel. Okay.
Guys, have a good evening.
You too.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.